Thank you for joining us. You're watching Talking Sport, and today on the program I'll be speaking to Timmy Duggan. Timmy Duggan is a Darwin-born basketball player and is the first Darwin basketball player from the Northern Territory to make it to the National Basketball League. Timmy is not only an exceptional athlete, he's also a champion for Aboriginal youth health. Thank you, Timmy, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. Good to be here, Rachel.
Good to have you. Timmy, you've spent a lot of time going across the country talking with youth about mental health. Can you tell us how that journey began for you?
Yeah, well, one of my first jobs was doing a traineeship at the Aboriginal Medical Service in Redfern as I was coming through the ranks playing basketball in New South Wales. And from there, I got picked up by a team called the Gold Coast Rollers. So I had to leave the Redfern AMS to travel up to Gold Coast, and that's where I got my lucky chance to play in the National Basketball League. But I always had this vision in the back of my mind to combine my health work with my basketball, and that's how I kind of came up with Hoops for Health.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Hoops for Health. Let's talk about how you got that program started in 2002.
Yeah, I was playing with the Cairns Taipans in the NBL.
Timmy Duggan, youngster from Darwin in the Northern Territory. Been waiting for a long time for his NBL comeback.
And while I was playing, I'd always go and do some basketball clinics and travel around all over the country doing basketball. But I thought we'll kind of bring another component to it, which was the health section of it. Yeah. So I was talking about healthy lifestyles, having a positive attitude, and eating the right types of foods and this types of things. So we started in 2002 in the West Cairns area, where a lot of the kids were playing basketball. So there was a lot of interest in it after we did a survey, and that's where we kind of launched it. So I went from we launched it at the Aboriginal Medical Service in Cairns. Yeah. So it went from me starting in the health work in Redfern to the Wu Chopper and Health Service in Cairns and launching it there in 2002.
While the program that you created for Hoops for Health, did the lessons that you learned when you were playing in the professional league, was they instrumental in creating the program? Definitely.
It's all about the ups and downs of living and learning, and I incorporated a lot of the messages that I learnt throughout my little journey so far, because I was only just starting off back then, in how to handle adversity, living a healthy lifestyle. We didn't preach perfection. We don't preach perfection in it, but we just maybe have a few prompts within the program that could inspire a lot of our young people, and also just keep them on track, making good decisions, and doing those types of things. So that's how we incorporate it. And at the end of it, it's a bit of fun aspect to it was the basketball. Yeah. So we'll have a bit of education around these lifestyle choices, and then go out onto the basketball court, have a bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Hoops for Health here in the northern suburbs of Darwin, where we're working with kids from 10 to 16 years old, working on some drills and skills. And what we say here, it's okay to make a mistake because we learn from our mistakes. So if we're working hard and we make a mistake, we're actually learning. So we're going to put some kids through some drills and skills right now. All right, I'm calling this drill the Corona drill because in here is my boundary, okay? But you can do this at home, all right? So what we're doing with these activities and drills, a lot of them you can do by yourself, and that's how you get better, okay, on your own. Try to keep your head up at all times. So we go through from one cone to the other on an angle. Okay, you can rock a bit if you want. So we can go this way. Okay, now I'm going to let Dwayne have a go.
One of your programs that is part of Hoops for Health is Mindset of a Champ. Can you go into a bit more detail about that, and who was one of your key mentors in that program?
Yeah, so the Mindset of a Champ is a collaboration with myself and Anthony Mundine, the world champ, and our journey goes back to the early 90s when he was playing basketball.
Oh.
And we were actually driving in a car back in 1995 from Sydney, because that's how I met him when I was doing my work down in Redfern.
Oh,
Plus
yeah.
he was playing basketball.
Yeah.
And we got in a car and drove from Sydney to Darwin back in 1995.
Yeah.
And on that journey, we spoke about our aspirations and goals that we had, because at the time we were both teenagers. And he actually mentioned back then, I'm going to be a world champion, you know, in boxing.
Yeah.
And then at the time he was playing rugby league for St. George. And on that trip from Sydney to Darwin, I was just about to move from Sydney to the Gold Coast to play in the NBL there. So, but the mindset of a champ, it's all about, you know, having the right mindset. It's open to everyone. This session is split into 3 sections, including having a good mindset, a bit of leadership tools, and also self-care. So it touches on that mental health aspect about looking after yourself and having that right frame of mind.
Yeah.
And we put a lot of inspirational narratives within the program that are based on his journey that not a lot of people will know. So we started it off this year.
Yeah.
Here in Darwin, we did a session with a few government agencies.
Yeah.
So workers. So it works with workers in high-level corporates.
Yeah.
To the grassroots people. So we did one at the Mission Australia Rehabilitation and Treatment Service as well over in Berrima with the clients here too. That's something, you know, that they'll remember for a very long time, and the evaluations from it are really good and successful outcomes.
Yeah. I also know that you work with the youth at Dondale. How successful has that program been at Dondale, and have you seen changes in the youth that do it?
This was at the end of 2016, so we just seen it as a bit of an evolution of Hoops for Health.
Yeah.
And I've been in there every single weekend for 4 years straight with those young people.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not just about me and my program, but the big thing about it is being consistent, and so the young people see a face that they can relate to and a program that they can do that's they know it's always happening. And it's about developing the relationships with the young people. So a lot of them, when they do get out of Dondale, they know that they can come to our Hoops for Health program on the outside as well. So there's a bit of familiarity with it all, but it's a whole big jigsaw. I'm just part of playing my part to get the kids moving and physically active through Hoops for Health.
Yeah.
Why it's worked, I think young people see basketball, you know, on TV, and it's a bit of a trend at the moment. The popularity of the sport is really high, not only here in Australia but around the world. And it's fun. So all you need is a hoop. It doesn't matter if I've got one young person or 20 with me, I can make the program work.
Yeah.
And it's proven to be successful because of that. And I know most times during the week, a lot of their programs will be formalised.
Yeah.
So I know it's a weekend, so it's a little less formal. And a big component is at the end, we have a bit of a circle there where we have a bit of a yarn about things, and we talk about successful Aboriginal people.
Yeah. Not
Not just in the sporting field, but in all walks of life over history.
Yeah.
To kind of inspire these young people to say, we are successful people.
Yeah.
It's just hearing those stories and celebrating those stories as well. So I was sitting down with a young person in the detention centre, and we're talking, having a bit of a dream about what you're going to do when you get out. And we're talking about how he likes Kobe Bryant, the basketballer, and also providing opportunities for when school isn't on.
Yeah.
So looking at the day as a bit of a breaking the day down into the hours, because we know in the idle time, you know, that's when you get up to mischief. So we talked about it. We had a bit of a dream. This young person's still on the inside, but when he gets out, we're going to, you know, get him involved in some activities, some structured activities, and maybe have a Hoops for Health Academy for these young people at risk, or whoever just wants to improve their game.
I think we have a lot of celebrities out there that don't see that how much effect they have on children, and I certainly do, and I certainly try to play my part in order to prevent any problems within the communities.
Hoops for Health NBLs mean a lot to you?
Oh, for sure. This is the first one. So hopefully it can build and grow into something that can be national, and I think it's got the capabilities of doing that.
What's the message you like to send out with, in connection with Hoops to Help? What do you want to
For
say?
me, it's just stay away from any drinking and drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, and try to not smoke and really set yourself dreams and goals and live them dream and goals. Do anything that you can in order to achieve it, because anything is possible. You can do anything that you want to do as long as your mind tells you.
Importance of education. I know myself, while I was playing basketball, I was doing a bit of studying as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't perfect, I wasn't a great student,
Yeah.
but I was always big on reading, so I'm constantly reading to improve my own knowledge and on things, on different leadership things and biographies and stuff like that to grow. We all continue to grow, it doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
So the importance of self-education, I think that's big too, and realising and reflecting on your journey,
Yeah.
and have the ability to reflect, but take feedback as well along that journey, and being able to use that feedback not as criticism,
Yeah.
but as room to grow and learn.
At the beginning of this year, the NBL, the Australian League, had its first inaugural Indigenous Round. Can you please talk about how you played a part in that becoming real?
Yeah, I played a small part. I did a presentation 2 years ago at the Australian Institute of Sport, and I titled it Cultural Safety in Basketball and Leading and Dreaming in the Spirit of the Game. And what it did, it looked back on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander basketballers who've played in the NBL. And what we found from the research, which is there's only been 17 players over 40 plus seasons around Australia. So it was a low figure, but it's a figure to say we've done all right still, And out of those 17, over half are from the far north Queensland and Northern Australia region. So what's happening there? They must be seeing good basketball with the implementation of NBL teams in far north Queensland, and they get to see it. And then it kind of evolved, and I kind of advocated with a few others as well to get this thing happening. And they had the first round, where they had the uniforms and that, which was pretty good. It was the first one. Still a long way to go. And I think there's a lot of unique success stories within those 17 that have played in the NBL. And also not forgetting that people like Michael Armat, who was from Darwin here before the NBL actually started. He represented Australia at a time when Aboriginal people weren't included in the census. So and he was the first Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander to play at the Olympics for basketball, for Australia back in 1960. So the strange thing about it all is all our young people playing in communities and remote communities and in cities all across Australia, but it isn't transferring to the elite level because we only have 17 that have played in the NBL. So what's happening there from the grassroots, the development to the NBL? Why aren't there more like the Rugby League and AFL? So that's things like that. I think you just need to celebrate the successes of people who have played at a high level and go from there. But it was really good to see the NBL jump on and do the Indigenous Round.
It's good to hear that, as you said before, there's this new program to help inspire that next generation to reach that excellence that, yourself and many others have shown that we can achieve. Can you tell us the story about the Brisbane Bullets and how that led you to think about mentorship? Yeah,
that was an interesting story, and it was a bit of one of my biggest regrets in basketball, to be honest. It was back in '98, and we'd just won the national title playing with the Cairns Marlins, which was the second-tier league in the ABA, second tier to the NBL. And it was the first season that the National Basketball League went to summer, which they were starting in October or November. So the timing was good to, if you were a player in the ABA, you could go to the NBL. There's a bit of a pathway. So I actually got a call from the Brisbane Bullets, and they said, Timmy, we've had an injury to our backup point guard. We want you to come down from Cairns and and you got a spot in the Bullets. And I said to them, I'll call you back. And I kind of went through my memory, and I thought, wow, Brisbane Bullets, they were the team in the 80s that I got me into playing basketball, people like Leroy Logans and Danny Morseau.
Yeah.
Anyway, I actually had a holiday booked to Darwin, and I called them back, and this was my decision. I called them back and I said, oh, no, I'm going to turn it down because I'm going back to Darwin for holiday.
Yeah.
Realising that I'd already signed with the Cairns Taipans for the following year, for their inaugural season.
Yeah.
But it is one of my biggest regrets, and I think at the time, if I had someone like a mentor or a coach to guide me and kind of help me out with a few decisions. I was still only 21 at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have played with the Brisbane Bullets. I put that down to not having a mentor, and that word's kind of thrown around a lot now.
Yeah.
And also having that guidance to make these good decisions. Yeah.
So it's very much for you a driving force for Hoops for Health.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
The mentorship and realising what mentoring is. Identifying goals, and mentoring is really about not the mentor, but the mentee, or the participant driving the relationship.
Yeah.
And you as a mentor, you've got the lived experience, and you guide this person on where they want to go rather than telling them, and they kind of own the whole process then. But I really wish I had a mentor back then to help me. That was back in '98. And like I said, it was one of my biggest regrets. And it's a story that I've been telling lately because it's kind of played up in my mind. What if?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Timmy played for the Cairns Taipans as well as the Gold Coast Rollers. What was it like playing at that elite level? The mental stress, the physical stress on you. How did you survive?
Yeah, well, there's a few things that actually built up my resilience to get me to that level in the first place. I had 4 hoops in my backyard here in Darwin that my dad put up, and these hoops were just handmade because back in the mid-80s you couldn't just go to the sports shop and buy a basketball hoop. So I was shooting hoops every day, all day, every day. And then when I went to Sydney as a young person, I made the New South Wales teams. And our camps that we used to have for those trainings to make those teams, and when you made them, were like military camps where you'd sleep in the basketball stadium, you'd train 3 or 4 times a day, times 2-hour sessions, so 3 by 2-hour sessions. So it ended up being about 6 hours of training per day. So that kind of prepared me, coming through that culture of the New South Wales basketball teams. So I was kind of ready when I got my chance. I actually remember my first game playing, and then all the media were ringing me because I became the first person from Darwin. This was back in '96 to play in the NBL, but I was nervous. It was at a place called the Glass House in Melbourne, and we played a team called the North Melbourne Giants. And then the following night we played the Canberra Cannons, and that's when I scored my first points in the NBL, and we actually got a win in that game. But when I look back on it now, I had a lot of confidence within myself because I knew I'd done a lot of the work.
Yeah.
I was watching a few clips the other day with the clients that I do Hoops for Health with, and I said, if I was to play that game now, I'd probably be nervous playing in front of 8,000 people in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Whereas back then I just believed in myself that I actually belonged here.
Yeah.
And, some of the players, played against some really good players throughout their time, not only here in Australia, but through a lot of college teams that came out that went on to play in the NBA as well. So players, played against Andrew Gaze, who's a legend in Australia, in that Adelaide game when I shot my first 3-pointer, playing against Brett Maher.
Yeah.
Some of the hardest players were guys like Derek Rucker, because he was a point guard, played with the Bullets in Townsville.
Yeah.
One of the hardest players, when people ask me the question, who was the toughest player you played against? It's a guy named Mike Bibby. He played with the Sacramento Kings in the NBA.
Yeah.
And but he played with the Arizona Wildcats, and they came out on a tour, and he was really just tough to guard. And I think you remember those players that were tough to play against, because of that, because they were that good.
Yeah. Let's talk about your first 3-pointer. How was that?
Yeah, it was. I still remember it. There's a clip of it on YouTube, and I actually was thrust into the game at a critical point, and it was the first time I started a quarter. So it was the fourth quarter, playing for the Gold Coast Rollers against the Adelaide 36ers
Yeah.
in 1996 in front of about 8,000, 9,000 people in Adelaide at the Powerhouse. And we were right in the game. And the first play of the fourth quarter, I remember I touched the ball, I threw it into the post player inside, and he kind of passed it back out, but I was ready because I don't know if they showed me the respect. Maybe they didn't know that I could shoot.
Yeah.
And as soon as it come back to me, I took the shot, and as soon as it left my hand, I knew it was going in. So that was my first three-pointer, and it put us into the game.
I'm telling you, that kid can play. I've seen him play. I've played against him in the summer leagues in Sydney.
We were right in there at crunch time, so it was more than just hitting that three-pointer. It was about us being in the game as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was my first one, and I remember that was on national TV, and people were, back then, you know, it wasn't Facebook or anything like that in '96. But I felt good about myself, but it was just the beginning.
Yeah. All that hard work and preparation and getting that one moment, that first three-pointer, must have just felt amazing.
Well, you know, we spoke about Anthony before, and we have a saying, you know, it's about being ready when the opportunity comes. But and that's what he said, not waiting till that opportunity comes to be ready before it comes.
Yeah.
And he always used to say that to me when he was starting out in rugby league with St George as well. But I took that into my basketball as well, because I came off the bench. You know, you're pretty cold. It was down in Adelaide, and I got a chance to, you know, to contribute to our team that game.
As we all know, basketball is a team sport. How does that help in trusting the people around you, and how do you take that lesson of trust out into young players or in life lessons?
Yeah, firstly, to answer your question about trust on the court, you think about it, you've got 10 players on the basketball court and one basketball.
Yeah.
So over the course of the game, the ball's not going to be in your hand the whole time. So in my position, where I played the point guard, it was about knowing your role and trusting your teammates. And when I went up to Cairns, we had a really good chemistry when we won the national title. We had a kind of pecking order where we knew who was going to shoot the most shots. So there was a lot of trust within each other to play your role.
Yeah.
And you can talk about it as much as you like. You can say it at practice, do it at practice. But when it comes into the game, you've got to be able to put it into play. And we had a lot of trust within each other and backed each other. Very important on basketball court because it's a team game.
Yeah.
How that transfers off the court in a mentorship or being a mentor or in leadership roles, you've got to put the responsibility on the people that you're leading and have trust in them, that they have done a lot of work. And you'll find a lot of times when you give them that trust, I know even as a coach now, and a player's sitting on the bench and I get the feel that, you know, he's done the hard work at training, so I'm going to give him a chance today to play. So that's all about having trust in the people that you're leading and giving them a chance. And with that trust and with opportunity comes success. So, and it's about giving that person and letting them know that you've got a bit of faith in them, that they can do a job or do a role. And it's very important in basketball, but off the court as well.
Yeah. You also coach here in Darwin. What does the next 20 years of basketball look for the Northern Territory, for the league? Do you think it's going to grow more and more of our top-end players are going to play down south and hopefully overseas? I'm
still, you know, the only born and bred person to play in the NBL. We've had Blake Truslove, Gary Budnikoff as well. We've had a lot of success in wheelchair basketball, and one of our own, Clarence Grogan, CJ, he's done well. Tom O'Neill-Thorne and Abby Cabillo now in the WNBL. Our big barrier is obviously playing games against high quality competition.
Yeah.
Where if you live in the eastern states and down south, you're playing against good competition all the time. Whereas here, you're seeing the same faces and same teams every third or fourth week. So if we can get a team to play in maybe the second tier NBL, that'll be really, really beneficial for juniors coming up. In the meantime, all you can do as a coach is make your programs really tight, disciplined and elite. And I'm big on that, making it elite, because everyone genuinely wants to get better.
Yeah.
So the young people want to be the next Abby Cabillo. Well, I see how she trains. I have to do that to be there too. It's not just going to happen. So that was, I think that's where basketball lies. Facilities. You've seen where it's come in the last. As a kid growing up, I was at the Daly Street basketball courts here in where the fish feeding is here, or the ex-fire station in Daly Street here in Darwin. I grew up from there to watching it at the Marara Stadium and the DBA, and now they've extended the courts there. So 20 years, maybe we need a few more courts with the population growing and training times and games.
Nice. Is there anything you'd like the watchers out there, the viewers, to know? Some message to pass along?
Yeah, I guess from my journey through basketball and through life, moving away from home, it's taught me a lot of lessons along the way, that everything's not just going to be handed to you. You've got to work for it, have a bit of fun along the journey. But my message for the young people is just be healthy, continue to grow, continue to learn, and the world is your oyster. It's out there. Your home's always going to be there. I did the full circle. Darwin was here. I went away for 15 years, and now I'm back home, teaching a lot of the learnings that I had from my journey.
Thank you, Timmy, for joining us here on Talking Sport. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks. I've really enjoyed being on here.